All right, musangalile. Murima. Good morning, karibu sana. This is the Morning Cafe on this lovely Tuesday morning, the 11th of February 2025, a very special day. It is the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Yes. So if you love science and you're a woman, this is your day, the 10th anniversary. Now this is a UN set date. So it is definitely something that will be marked across the globe.
All right. And when you say musangalile, what should I be saying back? Sasa kesho tunarudi na musangalile. Murima.
Murima.
Good morning. My name is Anodida. Thank you so much for joining us. Friday, unafaa useme the way you're not resting here. Mambo na Valentine is around the corner. I'm reminding Friday every now and then. Maua lazima on the 14th.
You know I'm going on a special. The men's conference is happening.
If you haven't planted your flowers as early as yesterday, Saha Valentine's. Anyway, a lot is happening in the country. That is why we are here. And thank you so much for choosing us this morning. So let's keep you updated.
All right. A quick look at the dailies. And yes, this is the biggest discussion this morning on the front page of the Standard. Biased speaker on the date and day that members of the National Assembly are returning after a 2 months recess. This is what they're coming back to. And a not so happy speaker there on the front page of the Standard.
Taifa leo, Gachagua atapatapa.
Je, anatapatapa kwa nini? Tutaangazia hayo baadaye. MPs wanasema Ruto's SHA is a sham. Wewe jamaa amekalia hiyo headline. SHA is a sham. Chief SHA is a sham.
Shia. All right. Daily Nation, agony for youth after Ruto visit. Mambo ya Isiolo hiyo.
Kuna mtu aliwaambia wazime simu, hawakuzima. That's a Daily Nation. On the Star, 100 MPs head to Addis for Raila's AUC polls D-Day. Yes, it is 4 days to D-Day for the AUC chairperson's election. Yesterday there was special prayers in Nairobi. Tutasemaje leo. That's the Star. Now we'll be back to take a look at this papers in depth, but we also have a business headline.
Fake goods alert as 9.6 million KRA revenue stamps stolen.
People are very daring. These are the local headlines. And on State of the Nation, come at 6:30, we'll be having these three gentlemen just to help us take a look at these headlines. Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central, James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, and Titus Lote, MP Kacheliba. These are the gentlemen that will be helping us look at the dailies this morning, starting from 6:30 a.m. Let's cross over and take a look at the headlines in Uganda.
New vision, what lies ahead for new BOU bosses? Experts react. Profiles of appointees inside page 6 and 7 of this newspaper.
Yes, finally the Bank of Uganda got a new governor after more than 1,000 days with an acting person in charge. This is the biggest story in Uganda now, but what difference does it make? There's an interesting story about education pale juu anasema education review. Primary classes should end at 3 p.m. Oh, where were they when I was going to school?
But you know, a
similar
conversation has been brought up here in Kenya some time back. Kuliendaje?
Kenya hata watu waliambiwa waachane na extra tuition. Na bado wanaendelea wanajificha kwa matawi wakienda extra tuition. You wonder, okay, why are you forcing it? Yeah?
Kina morning preps.
Yes. Watoto wanatoka. When we are coming to work, how many school buses do you meet?
Watoto wadogo.
Watoto wanaenda shule 4 a.m. Kusoma nini?
I have a neighbor na I'll put her on the spot.
Primary classes should end at 3 p.m. I agree with them, but this is in Uganda. I wish this headline was in Nairobi. But they are conducting a review on the education system, and this is just one of the proposals, and it's contained on page 3.
All right. Controversy over DRC transfers.
RDC.
Oh, RDC.
Regional District Commissioners.
Oh my God. DRC bado iko kwa kichwa jamani.
Right.
Health Dr. Magola cancer treatment awarded ESA patent, that is health matters in Uganda. And politics wako nayo hapa pia, why PLU march to parliament was halted.
All right. And you'll realize even when we come back to Kenya that we're getting very close to Valentine's. So on the front pages you see a lot of indications. So in Uganda they have this one, Valentine's, how to spice up for love.
How does that make you feel? Waambie.
Let's take a look at the Daily Monitor, still in Uganda. Finally, and that's a headline. And I love, you know, if you've noticed, Daily Monitor has a striking resemblance to our Daily Nation here. But they have a very neat front page. Yes. This is just one story. Graphics, and then one word headline.
Yeah.
Finally, full stop, pop. So they say, rise from the bottom. The appointment of Dr. Michael Atingi Ego as the governor of Bank of Uganda ends a period of waiting of 1,114 days since the death of his predecessor. Now this story, it is so big in Uganda, they've dedicated pages 4, 5, and 6 of this paper to just address this. That's a new boss of the Bank of Uganda, which is the equivalent of the Central Bank of Kenya, CBK. Yes.
But hizo ni siku mingi pia.
1,000, this is like 3 years. Yeah. Actually more than 3 years.
Kule juu bado wanazungumzia Bank of Uganda, BOU, deals at Bank of Uganda, you know, Engineers Without Borders, UEDCL, DPF, Ministry of Gender, NSSF, etc. tenders.
Kuna tenda huko. Chunguza.
Yep.
All right. Cross into Bongo and we take a look at the Citizen.
Bunge panel reveals gaps in key transport projects. Now, Parliamentary Committee has raised concerns about the implementation and efficiency of key infrastructure projects. It warned that delays and mismanagement could undermine the government's multi-trillion shilling investments in transport. All
right. And there's a lot of news about transportation on the front page of the Citizen, because down there they talk about optimism as SGR cargo services beckon. So ni kama itaanza kubeba mizigo. SGR is a game changer, not just in Kenya, in Tanzania especially, because of how vast the country is and how poor their transport infrastructure was. So this one opens up the hinterland. Ni stima tu wanafaa waongeze kidogo.
Nilikuwa karibu nikuulize, and today you're not touching on the
stima huwa inapotea.
Electricity struggles.
The train itself gets too hot inside because there's no air conditioning. So you have to get off. Na imezimia katikati ya park. Imezimia katikati ya park. Can you imagine going to Mombasa, then inside Savo, the train stops. Then you can't stay inside, you're forced to get out. Shaskia man-eaters of Savo. Watakupata hapo. Other quick highlights on the front page.
Conference tourism's growing role in Tanzania's economy. Now, as the country continues to host international events, it is becoming clear that conferences are playing an increasingly important role in the national economy.
So they're eating into Kenya's market as well.
CCM member expelled for faulting party decisions. Interesting times.
Let me tell you, siasa ya Tanzania ni moto. Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM ukijaribu ukijaribu tu kucheza unatolewa. In Kenya you cannot actually expel anyone from the party. It's proven impossible. In Tanzania apparently you can.
New fund launched to empower marginalized communities in East Africa.
That's the other story on the front page of the Citizen. Tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi kule Bongo, wanasema ameliwa kichwa. Aliyechokonoa uteuzi wa Samia, ndio hii story ya siasa. Sema ni Daktari Malisa aliyepinga Rais Samia kuteuliwa mgombea pekee wa urais CCM. Sasa amefukuzwa wanachama akitajwa ni msaliti. Mpinzani mwenyewe atoa msimamo. Msimamo gani? Anasema mimi sijapigiwa simu, sijaambiwa anything na chama, so sita comment. Dr. Godfrey Malisa alijaribu kupinga uteuzi wa Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan kama mgombea kiti wa urais CCM. Sasa hana chama, utaenda Chadema.
Expelled.
Ukimove kutoka CCM kwenda Chadema watu wanashangaa sana. Utatokaje? Mali nyama iko minofu unaenda kwa upinzani. Bunge jino kwa jino na serikali, masuala ya uchukuzi. So wanaongea kuhusu safari za ndege, SGR na makusanyo ya fedha kutoka kwa sekta ile ya uchukuzi.
Utalii wa mikutano unavyoifungua Tanzania kiuchumi.
Positive stories there. Mwendo kasi kushusha mabasi 100 ya kisasa kutatua kero la usafiri. Inaitwa mwendo kasi.
Train.
Mwendo kasi ni masuala ya speed.
Alright.
Speed.
Jirani itabidi simplify.
Jirani itabidi ajifunze Kiswahili. So these are just some of the headlines in the region and locally. We'll be back to take a look at the local dailies in depth shortly. For now, let's focus on the weather patterns across the the country, and we start off in Kisumu this morning. It is 20 degrees Celsius as we speak, a very sunny day. Very little cloud cover in Kisumu, and it will get, hear this, it promises to get as high as 32 degrees Celsius. So if you're in Kisumu, leo ni ile siku ya kuvaa vest.
Hatuvangi vest Kisumu.
Amejui hiyo ni nini?
0 millimeters.
Ama at least unaenda kwa ile, there's a beach.
Dunga Beach.
Yes,
We
they
do
can
have
enjoy
local
some
beach.
breeze there from the lake.
Yes.
Yes, this is a beautiful day because zero cloud cover, clear skies in Kisumu. That's interesting. What about Kilifi?
Kilifi, it is 26 degrees as at now. It feels like 29. Huko pia kuna joto, sio Kisumu peke yake. Highs of 31 degrees. Cloud cover and sunny throughout the day.
You do realize that Kisumu is going to get hotter than Kilifi today. Kisumu is going to get as hot as 32.
32.
Kilifi only 31 degrees. So this is fair.
Precipitation.
0.3. Hii hata huwezi feel. Ni kama tu unyevu kidogo. What about Eldoret? Eldoret also promises to be sunny today. 14 degrees Celsius as we speak, feels like 13, so it's quite chilly as we speak. But a very little cloud cover, sunshine throughout, clear skies, highs of 26 degrees. So it's sunshine throughout. Now you've seen Kisumu, Kilifi, and Eldoret. Take a look at the beautiful city of Nakuru.
All right, 13 degrees as it now feels like 8, highs of 27 degrees. It will be sunny throughout the day. Precipitation hapa.
Hakuna kitu.
0.
I talked to my mom on phone yesterday and she was telling me where Nakuru is hot and dry.
For the first time.
Not for the first time.
Inakwanga
It does happen like this between January, February and March. It gets very hot, very dry, very dusty. Alafu nyasi inakauka, so kila mahali ni brown. It doesn't look very nice.
Januari haifanyi poa.
Haifanyi poa. So that's Nakuru. Finally, Nairobi.
17 degrees feels like it. Highs of 27 degrees and it will be sunny throughout the day. Comfortable weather. Precipitation 0.
Hakuna mvua Nairobi. Yes. Lakini watu wa Kisumu wavae vest leo. Wamesema hawajui vest ni nini. Sio mimi nimesema, is your girl from Seme. Ati watu wa Kisumu hawajui vest ni nini. Hey, wakusikie. All right, that's a weather situation. Let's come back and take a look at the traffic situation in this great city of Nairobi. Tuone ni wapi mambo inakuwa segemnege. Yes, and you can see the usual trouble spots. If we may point them out. Allow me to use technology. Unaulizwa uko na technology, hauitumii. Unataka tufanye nini? All right. So, areas around Pipeline, na imekataa hiyo maneno. Pipeline along Outer Ring Road is getting busy, matatu pale. When you come to Jogoo Road, areas around Makadara is building up slowly. You can see a stretch of red plus dots of yellow here and there. Around City Stadium roundabout, it's also getting busy. Once you get to, and this is we've not seen this, areas around Mudhuru as you get towards town. It's getting busy. That combined with what's happening along Haile Selassie Avenue on both sides of the road next to Marikiti means that this whole area is problematic. You see, once you're getting into town. If you try to use the other road, and this is the one that heads towards Nyayo Stadium from the City Stadium, there's also a build-up of traffic around Nyayo Stadium. So those are the 3 trouble spots there. Let's go further eastern, and this around Mama Lucy Hospital. Once you turn left towards the Outer Ring Road, you can see on Kangundo Road, there's also a stretch of yellow and red there. So these are just some of the trouble spots. Of course, Pangani Interchange yoni kama kawaida, hapo inakuanga problem. So if you're using either Outer Ring Road, Jogoo Road, into town, or Thika Road around Pangani, that is where you expect problems. So ule mtu akona shida sana, ni ule anatoka Kangundo Road, akuja join Jogoo Road, akuja ingia Haile Selassie Avenue. If you can use any other route, the better for you. That's the traffic situation. Probably we'll be back to take a look at it at 1:30 tuone kama mambo itakuwa imegeuka.
All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day. It is not enough to have the desire to succeed. You must always have the discipline to persist when things get hard, the patience to wait for results, and the courage to face every challenge head on.
right. On the front page of the Standard.
Yes.
Mushangalire. Papa Roma hajafurahia. The choice of photo of the Speaker of the National Assembly on the front page of the Standard tells a lot. Against the headline, biased speaker, not a very positive headline for him. Yesterday, the Standard talked about the president, describing him in two words, and presidential Ruto. Today they're talking about biased speaker. Can you see, kuna jamaa amekuwa hired wa kuandika headlines. Two words only.
Yeah.
And presidential Ruto, today biased speaker.
Juzi,
kesho watakuja,
say no evil, hear no evil.
Alafu watakuja kesho waseme, Gachagua. Undecided Gachagua. Anyway, so today is biased speaker. They talk about the majority puzzle, which is the biggest discussion as the National Assembly reconvenes after 2 months recess. Interestingly, we'll be having two members of the National Assembly with us this morning. So we'll be talking about this. A High Court ruling declaring Azimio as a majority party sets the stage for a tense parliamentary session today. Will MPs from both sides abide by the verdict, or will Kenya Kwanza resist the shake-up? All eyes are on Speaker Moses Wetangula, whose earlier ruling now seems to have stoked a political storm. Now, by yesterday, many members of parliament were saying that probably they'll go to the Court of Appeal seeking a stay on this order so that everything status quo remains. But so far, there's been no news on that. So without an order from the court, what happens once they resume? But anyway, siku ni mrefu, maybe bado wanaweza pata hiyo order kotini wakisema kila kitu iko. Lakini picha pale ya Papa wa Roma hajafurahia.
Lakini ukumbuke bad girl Melia shasema she's the majority whip.
Majority whip.
Until
I know even Junet Mohammed must be really excited and salivating at being called the majority leader.
Yes.
It comes with a lot of perks. A bigger office, security, a chase car. Even the allowances are different. Why would I say no to that?
We shall be there.
Knowing Junet Mohammed the way he is, well, it promises to be very interesting. But will Kimani Ichung'wah give up his majority leader seat that easily? Mambo inachemka. Osoro, on the other hand, is a majority whip.
Yeah.
Will he cede ground to Millie, to big girl Millie?
You know they're both tough. Now that's the most interesting
I'm telling
about
you, leo kama kuna ile siku chupa za maji urushwa bungeni, ni leo. Moto. Moment of truth, AUC race enters home stretch yesterday. ODM party held a special prayer for Raila Odinga 4 days before the elections in Addis Ababa. I think one of the dailies talks about how many MPs will be flying to Addis Ababa just for this.
Yeah.
So yes, a lot of discussions around that. How Mbotela faced charges over 82 coup is also a story there that's highlighted on the front page. Pale juu, how torture and detention cost taxpayers billions. And there's a picture there of, who is this?
Hi, Fred.
You don't know who this is?
Remind me.
Oh, seriously. This is Kenneth Matiba. He was a big opposition leader back in the 90s. He used to be in President Moi's cabinet, then he left. And he's among those people who were tortured. And he ran for president, came second to President Daniel Moi in 1992. So very interesting. Coop Bank fast to cut lending rates. There's another headline there. And Lali Ngoma after calls for truce. But we forget too quickly about the DRC crisis. Titans clash in bid to conquer Europe. That's another headline. And because today there's a big match in the UEFA Champions League for lovers of that league. Man City versus Real Madrid being played at the Etihad. So big games tonight. Brest hosting PSG at 8:45. Juventus hosting PSV Eindhoven at 11 p.m. Man City, we've mentioned it, versus Real Madrid, 11 p.m. at the Etihad Stadium. And finally, Sporting CP hosting Dortmund at 11 p.m. as well. So yes, some Champions League action coming up tonight. And that's a standard.
All right. Taifa leo sasa Gachagua atapatapa. Mikakati ni kwamba aliyekuwa naibu wa rais asema hatua ya kuahirisha uzinduzi wa chama kipya hadi Mei ni mpango wa kumzuia Rais Ruto kukivuruga. Afichua chama hicho kitakuwa na sura ya kitaifa. Hii kitu amepostpone for so long. He was to unveil it last week.
That's what I'm saying. On the standard tomorrow, we expect they'll say undecided Gachagua.
Prophet, eh? All right. Sasa hii kitu amepush to May, and he's saying kitakuwa na sura ya kitaifa, that is chama chake. Kumbuka is already joined with other teams. The DAPK is also been seen with Kalonzo Musyoka, the Wiper leader. So kwa mara ya tatu Rigathi airisha uzinduzi wa chama kipya anachoamini kitamng'oa Ruto mamlakani mwaka 2027. Man City kichinjioni UEFA leo. Miamba wa Uingereza wanaosuasua wana mtihani mgumu dhidi ya Real Madrid ugani Etihad. Sakaja sasa akaribishwa ODM rasmi. Hii ni baada ya Babu Owino kujitenga na chungwa kwa kuunga serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. Sasa I saw somewhere somebody was saying that Babu Owino said a father might love one child from the same household, but it's so unfortunate that for Raila Odinga, he loves a neighbor's child.
Yes. You know, many people forget that Sakaja is actually a UDA governor.
Yeah.
But he's too close to ODM. Yeah.
Watermelon. Wangesema hivyo. Okay.
Interesting.
Amesema in 2 weeks time he will be joining ODM. We'll be here to see that. Gaza, nchi za Mashariki ya Kati zitanifaa. Trump adai mataifa ya Kiarabu yatasaidiana naye kujenga upya ukanda wa Gaza uliopandwa kwa mabomu. That story is on page 8 of Taifa Leo. On the top strip, we see Raila Odinga, nitakubali matokeo AUC. Raila asema huku maombi yakizidi kutolewa na uchaguzi wa bara ukibakia siku 3 peke yake. And that's Taifa Leo.
All right. We move on to People Daily, and MPs are saying Ruto's SHA is a sham. Hey, I love that headline. Ruto's SHA is a sham. I'm not liking the content, I'm liking the wordings. Whoever crafted the headline, alifanya kazi. Yeah. Sisema ati Freddy alifanya nini, Raila's walk to Addis enters home stretch. That's a story on page 7. Although I've seen on the paper we're just looking at, amesema atakubali matokeo AUC. Hata kishindo amesema hataenda maandamano, atakubali. After Trump, Kenya now takes begging ball elsewhere because there's a cash crisis. That story is on page 8. Tunahitaji pesa, Trump amesema si wapi. Kalonzo takes on president over historical injustices. That story is on page 6. You do realize that the dressing of our politicians is also more or less the same.
Yes.
Kalonzo Musyoka here looking very much like President William Ruto. Hiyo kofia na mashati inakaa hivi.
That's a kaunda. Ama si hiyo.
No, ni ile shati inakaa purple.
But they do look alike.
I told you, there's a lot of mention of Valentine's. So there on the front page of the People Daily, they talk about beyond roses and chocolates for this Valentine's Day. Yes. So how chocolate na roses? What else do women want if it's not chocolates and roses?
Sitaki kusema hapa.
Pesa. Sema tu kweli, pesa. That is, they're making bouquets with the currency,
money, yes.
with money.
You cracked the code. Good job.
I tell you, People Daily.
Daily Nation, wanasema agony for youth after Ruto visit. And we see a photo here of some of the arrested youth who appeared before the Isiolo law courts yesterday and were charged with being drunk and disorderly. And they pleaded guilty and were released unconditionally. Now, 50 suspects were arrested in a police crackdown in Isiolo town on Saturday, hours after President Ruto's meeting was marred by heckling, were yesterday arraigned amid a protest by relatives and human rights activists who accused the government of intimidation and harassment. Isiolo kuliwaka on Saturday.
Kuliwaka moto.
And that video, if you watch it, I don't know if you will laugh, but we did. Yeah. It's quite funny that people of Isiolo can be out of order the way they were on Saturday. Hapo kando, we see inherited debt of 43 billion shillings hurting SHA. That story is on the back page, and it says the Social Health Authority inherited from the NHIF 43 billion shillings in debts to healthcare providers and co-insurers, according to Medical Services Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai. Now, Kimtai, while appearing before the Health Committee of the National Assembly yesterday, he stated that the delayed payment of premiums by various ministries and agencies has interrupted services in public and private hospitals. with Kenyans being turned away unless they pay out of pocket. That is so unfortunate. And he continues to say the delayed payments have disrupted services provision and placed pressure on both public and private health institutions relying on timely reimbursements. This is like almost 6 months after the enrollment of that social health authority. Now, Najua, it's getting so surprising. Manaki, it's not the first time that Harry Kimtai is appearing before Parliament for this. He has been the Health Parliamentary Committee. He's been there a couple of times, and they've brought up these issues that are still here. And it turns out nothing is being done about it. All right, on the top strip of the People Daily voting block. The Daily Nation. All right, voting blocks to watch in 2027. An analysis of population projections over the next 20 years shows a surge in northeastern, even as President William Ruto abolished strict vetting to ease issuance of national identification cards to the region's residents. The estimates suggest a population growth slump in the populous Mount Kenya and a surge in traditionally sparsely populated areas. That story is on page 10 of the Daily Nation.
All right, that's an interesting discussion.
Yep, and that's the Daily Nation.
All right. On the Star, we do have a physical copy there. They talk about 100 MPs heading to Addis Ababa for Raila's AUC polls D-Day. The tightly fought election is scheduled at the AU Summit on February 15th and 16th. That's this coming weekend. The story is on pages 4 and 5 of the Star. You can read more about that. And a very relaxed-looking Raila Odinga, the AUC candidate, picha iko hapo mbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa the Star. Remember, the Star being a Tuesday, it is not for sale. It is a free copy and comes with a complimentary pull-out. MyGov for government tenders and job opportunities. So yes, if you grab yourself a copy of the Star, you get a complimentary copy. That's MyGov. Other discussions on this paper as highlighted on the front page. Queries as 40,000 civil servants fail to go on leave. Apparently, some of them cannot leave their offices. They're protecting their turf. Nikienda leave, kuna watu watajua ile mambo mimi nafanyanga kwa iko na yangu. Elsewhere, win for intersex persons as third gender gazetted. Now, this is a very interesting discussion, especially with what Donald Trump said in the US.
Yeah.
And there's some leaders here, highly placed leaders, who echoed that and said, yes, we agree with them, that yes, there are only two genders. Yet in our laws, we are gazetting intersex as a third. Intersex as a third gender has officially been included in the latest gazetted sample of birth notification certificate that are filled at the point of birth. The sample has the usual binary genders, that's male and female, as well as intersex. The Gazette notice is on Legal Notice 153 of 2025. So be informed. Usifikirie uko America. In Kenya, we actually recognize 3.
Yes.
Yes? And state outlines rules on to control sand harvesting. These are just some of the highlights on the front page of the Star.
All right, and the Business Daily, fake goods alert of 9.6 million KRA revenue stamps stolen. Now, the Auditor General Nancy Gathungu raised the red flag on the possible theft of the stamps in a fresh audit of the KRA's financial statement for the fiscal year ending June 2024, published on Monday, that is yesterday. Now, an excess stamp is a type of revenue market affixed to some accessible goods to indicate that the required duty, popularly known as the syntax, has been paid by the manufacturer. It is also viewed as a mark of quality assurance, as it means. Interesting times. That story is on page 2 of the Business Daily. Hapa chini, housing levy cash invested in T-bills hits 46 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, the value of cash collection from the Affordable Housing Levy Fund invested in short-term government securities has risen to 46 billion shillings, signaling low absorption of the mandatory monthly contributions from workers and employers towards President William Ruto's pet project. On the ticker, Coop Bank cuts base lending rate to 14.5%. Pension schemes returns jump to 28%. And CMA moves to curb speculative trading in troubled companies. Now, CMA is the Capital Markets Authority. That's the Business Daily.
Right. Remember, we'll be looking at these dailies with my panelists at In a few minutes' time, Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central, James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, and Titus Lote, MP Kacheliba. They will be in studio for that. As we finalize on this newspaper review, let's take a look at the cartoons. And we start off with the one on the Standard. This one goes regional. They talk about the crisis in the Congo. And we have a caricature of a gentleman who yesterday was being described as an elephant in the room. And that's Felix Tshisekedi, the president of DRC. He's carrying a bag, a loot, yenye imebrandiwa DRC. You know, when you talk about DRC, there's a lot of loot. And he's pointing at M23. And the commentator said, when you point a finger at someone, 3 are pointing back at you. Because even as Tshisekedi points at M23, the summit, the DR Congo summit, is pointing at him. Yesterday, they were saying elephant in the room. Water, you're pointing at the other person, you could be part of the problem.
Yes.
That's a Standard. This one confused me. I still don't understand it. This is a cartoon on the Star.
See no evil, hear no evil. Caricature of President William Ruto, of course, in his PhD attires. Mimi niko hadi na PhD. Alisikika akisema maneno hayo last week.
Maneno haya si mageni mjini.
Labda kwa mgeni jijini. And we've seen a similar headline in one of the newspapers last week. See no evil, hear no evil. And then we're making mention of the mess in the education sector. We have SHA not working as well. We have the abductions. See no evil, hear no evil.
He's using his PhD not to see, to cover his eyes and ears. Oh, now I get it. Now I get it. On the Daily Nation now, they talk about the big debate in the National Assembly today. And you have, you seem to akishaekewa horns, inamaanisha you're being mischievous and you're not very straight.
Yeah.
So that's a leader of minority. Na anaangalia hii kiti kubwa hapa ya leader of majority. Kuna jamaa anaitwa Kimani Ichung'wah ameikalia. Lakini huyu anaitwa Junet Mohamed. Ndio ako na kiti yake ndogo ya minority. Kina anasema na hiyo si ni yangu.
Ashamea pembe.
Ile moto itawaka leo National Assembly. I tell you. Finally, on the People Daily, the chicken that lays the orange egg. Najua jana aliambia, the former deputy president said, William Ruto ameshikilia hivi Raila Odinga. Because that's where all his hope lies.
Yeah.
So this is a caricature of the president as a hen. Amelalia chungwa. He's counting on the orange. That is his 2027 game plan. 3 days, a lot will determine what happens.
Yeah.
So these are the cartoons, and these will make the biggest discussions after the break. But after that, other discussions.
It's Biashara Tuesday. We'll be talking about SMEs, management systems for SMEs aided through digitization, why it's important to digitize your biashara in this day and age.
Right.
With Patrick Muraguri, CEO, Have a Go Business Systems.
After that,
Apple farming with Catherine Wambugu. She's a farmer and ambassador of Wambugu Apples Farm. This is so interesting. You don't want to miss that.
all right. So do stand by for that and a lot more.
Interact with us on our social media platforms, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, TV47 News KE. On X, my handle is at Ann_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My ex-handle is at Fred in the Mule.
Stay with us.
Are you ready to elevate your business game?
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
The Grind, where business meets brilliance. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 p.m. because your business deserves the best.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Are you ready to elevate your business game?
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
The Grind, where business meets brilliance. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 p.m. because your business deserves the best.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
All right, welcome back and good morning once again. You're definitely watching TV47. This is a morning cafe. My name is Freddie Ndumuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines this morning on State of the Nation with my panelists. Allow me to welcome them. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North on my immediate right. Titus Lote, MP Kacheliba. Karibu sana. It's been a while. We've not had you on this panel. It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
And Bwana Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central. Karibu sana, Bwana Mutambo.
Asante sana.
We start off with Parliament. Members of the National Assembly get back to business today after a 2-month recess. 2 months is a pretty long time. And they come back to some very interesting in-tray. And this is captured on the front page of the Standard. They talk about biased speaker. Yesterday, the Standard went with the headline, "Unpresidential Ruto." Today, another 2 words, biased speaker, and a picture there of a not so happy speaker. And this has to do with the majority puzzle. A High Court ruling declaring Azimio as a majority party sets the stage for a tense parliamentary session today. Will MPs from both sides abide to the verdict, or will Kenya Kwanza resist the shake-up? All eyes are on Speaker Moses Wetangula, whose earlier ruling now seems to have stoked a political storm. Now, I know, Bonagakuya, that there's already that broad-based working arrangement. But when it comes to politicians, you never know. People have their own personal ambitions. This definitely will throw a spanner in the works in how the broad-based government is working.
Thank you, Indemore. Allow me to salute viewers wherever they are watching this morning show from. And coming to the big matter at this comeback from vacation of the National Assembly. Let me say that the ruling that was made by the 3-judge panel matters to do with the minority and the majority in the House. Personally, I have a different opinion on that latest court decision. One is that there is always windows stipulated under the registrar of parties. And this is how corrections are made. And there is a preparation of corrections which are puri, and there is that after the those guidelines that are the correction sign after probably the results of an election. And this particular case, if I would check how Azimio was crafted, there is a 3-month window to allow any member who would wish to quit from the correction. And by the time when this matter was taken to court, that is very correct that the 3-month window was not over yet. And therefore, it was long. It was against the law to have those members that were purported to be as new members at that particular time. That decision, to me, can be overtaken by event, taking concern that the 3 months are over and those particular members have officially departed from the official Azimio correction. Okay. And therefore, probably the ruling is not timely because it took too long. Mm-hmm. But if the ruling was within the stipulated time of 3 months, it could have value. Okay. But as of now, it may not have a clear weight because I am sure those parties are still in the House and they are well presented. And they can be able to present the letters that actually they wrote to the registrar, and they can prove that they officially quit, and therefore they are no longer members of ASMIO. But either politics are politics. If they wish to be part of the original coalition, we might find a different scenario.
Okay. But either way, whichever way it goes, Banalute, this definitely is egg on face on the Speaker of the National Assembly. He's the one who made that declaration. The court is now saying you are wrong on this matter. The court has further talked about his position as Speaker and his continued existence as a leader of Ford Kenya Party. Definitely the Speaker is a person on the spot in, today as you go back to work.
Thank you. Thanks for welcoming back to the studio after a long period. I think the last time I was in the studio was last year. What I want to appreciate the fact that the ruling has been made. When we were in Parliament on the 6th of September 2022, I think they're about 22nd of, should have been 22nd of September. I actually came in from the opposition or the Azimio coalition in a party called the Kenya Union Party. And we believed that we were the majority in the National Assembly. But then the debacles that followed after are to the level where the Speaker then ruled and said that the majority party or the majority coalition were the Kenya Kwanza. We didn't take it lightly. We contended it, but I think he was able to prove to us and force to us.
Prove to you or just force it on you?
It proved. I think forcefully proving to us that the Kenya Kwanza was the majority party. And we, after making a lot of noise, we agreed. And Kenya's moved on. This is 2.5 years, probably past 2.5 years, that the ruling is coming back to say it should have taken the other way. It should have been that Azimia coalition was the majority. I think for me, it has been overtaken by events because there are a lot of things that have taken place since then. From the time we met in September of 2022 to now, a lot of things have changed. You know, at that point, the parties were changing. And the Kenya, the Maendeleo Chap was in Azimio. Maendeleo Chap has moved. Jubilee, most part of the Jubilee was also in Azimio. They have also moved to Kenya Kwanza. So I think the ruling, as much as it validates what we thought in 2022, has actually been overtaken by events. And I think it is intended to bring back this country into a political debacle instead of allowing this country to heal and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But justice delayed definitely is justice denied. But can we say an illegality should be allowed to continue just because of time, that too much time has passed? It's okay, let bygones be bygones. If it was illegal then, the Speaker's pronouncement, then he's been called out. It remains an illegality, Bwana Mutambo.
You see, those who were in KANU, they moved to other parties. Do they still become members of KANU? If you move your position, you have moved. There was a time you were an anchor in another station. But now where are you? Was it illegal then? No. What court does deals with the facts, what is on the table. And those who went to court, because court don't invite people to court, you are the one who go to court to present yourself and present your grievances to court. And the court listen to you. And if the document and the facts before court were showing by then that the Azimio is the majority, then court had nothing else unless somebody now goes to the same court and tell court, you know what? We came here to say we are majority, but now things have changed. We want to withdraw that statement and declare that we are minority. We have agreed. So Azimio never went to court, despite having some coalition with the government. They never went to court to tell court otherwise. So court made their determination based on the information they have. And where they are coming from is that our laws are a bit mixed up, because it says the party with majority members in parliament, are the majority. The party. It talks about the party. Then there's also a room for a coalition. Then now, today, when you sit here and ask yourself questions, is what other coalition was there? Is Azimio a coalition, or Azimio is registered as a political party? If you go deep, you will find out that Azimio is a political party, actually with no members. The only members was Raila Amolo Odinga, who vied with that ticket. Because Raila never vied with ODM, he vied with Azimio. So I don't know whether the Raila today is a member of Azimio or is a member of ODM, because he went there as a candidate of a political party known as Azimio. It's only that we don't follow things. If you follow things to the latter, you ask yourself so many questions. Because if you are to be my deputy, you also have to belong to that party. So which party did Mother Karua and Raila run with? It was Azimio, it was not ODM. Mother is not a member of ODM. So those things, we don't follow them. If we follow them, you will find all of us politicians, we don't do things right.
And it's interesting that you say that there's a lot of mess within Parliament. There's a lot of confusion as well, Bonagakuya, that there's a lack of political hygiene. Parties can switch allegiances inside Parliament with no consequences. Previously, if you were to defect from your party, you needed to seek a fresh mandate. Right now, you can switch, leave your party, move to the other side, and you're not required to go for a by-election. Don't you think that this ruling by the Speaker, which is now being challenged, that only served to further make parliamentary hygiene something impossible to achieve, that anything can happen in Parliament?
Let me say, in the more that the ruling of the court is quite in order, despite that the already changes that has come with the time may ruin that particular ruling a success implementation. But that does not mean that the House does not require to follow the Constitution to the letter. We have what we call Political Parties Act, which stipulates all what the political parties are supposed to do and their powers and privileges. And one has to add to that. And that's the reason why the party registrar has powers to make sure that every coalition, when it is formed, it files with her or with the registrar all their conditionalities and terms, so that even though that coalition can break after, then they should follow the already stipulated processes that actually they have signed against. And that's why every single party that joins a coalition have to sign a memorandum so that you abide by the understanding of that coalition. Let me say, there have been some cases on how you are rude to say that members have been crossing to either party. But let me say, it is not very, very, very clear. But in fact, the parties has the law, because the powers are not with the National Assembly. The parties for disciplinary of a member, or the powers to discipline a member, are not with the National Assembly. In the case member fails to join another party in the floor, the Speaker has no say on that. The only party is only the party that actually that member comes from, which has party an obligation to discipline such a member. And if such a party then fails to do so, then the Speaker has no choice, his hands are tied, because he cannot wake up and make such a ruling against the parties that actually has nominated that particular candidate to become to the House.
Okay.
One, let me say, we have seen currently even handshakes that actually, which has made also members of Parliament to leave their positions and taken ministerial positions. And they cannot do that without the blessings of their main party. But through the blessing of their main party, that's why they are there. And therefore, the biggest say in this particular case is party. Okay. Because the parties has the powers to do so.
They call it the majority puzzle. So what will happen? Will Kimani Ichung'wah still be leader of majority? Will Junet Mohammed want that coveted seat as well. But let's move away from that and focus, because this paper is focused on Speaker Moses Wetangula. Fine, on this issue, he's been termed as biased. The second issue is that he's been called out on his occupation of two positions as party leader of Ford Kenya and party leader of and Speaker of the National Assembly. We've seen his other colleagues within the party, within the coalition of Kenya Kwanza, have had to fold their parties and join UDA. That was the expectation, that Moses Wetangula would do the same. Do you think that this could in a way benefit UDA's plan, the president's plan to build a monolithic party, that this kind of pressure from the court will force Moses Wetangula to either fold Ford Kenya or lose his position as Speaker?
Well, I think what the media has written, or what is written here, what we're reading today, our opinion of people that believed that Wetangula is what they term Wetangula to be. But that could not be the truth, because there are other people that are also talking about Wetangula on a different light. So this is a coin, so it depends on which side of the coin you are in. When they say Wetangula was biased, in terms of how, first of all, this ruling was made. We know when the ruling was made that time, the Azimio coalition had 171 members. If we look at the Azimio coalition as we went into an election, and then the Kenya Kwanza had 165. And that is what we contended for that time. We said 171 is greater than 165. But then because there are parties, small parties, the UDM, the MDG, the MCCP, the PA, had actually then decided to work or cut ranks with the Kenya Kwanza. And so the 14 members of those small parties then were added into 165. And so there was a reduction from the 171 who was Azimio, and then there was an increase on Kenya Kwanza based on the members. But again, what then made Wetangula to make a ruling is based on what we got from our constitution, because our article number 91 and 92 of the constitution stipulated clearly that parties are supposed to be governed in a manner that removes them from being an individualistic briefcase items to become a national documented parties. So when that was brought, the constitution just put it at that level, and then now we got the Parties Act of 2011. That is the act that then allowed Wetangula to make the ruling, because this act of the Political Parties Act of 2011 actually gave it the leeway for members to be able to, after election, form coalitions. And so when these members from the UDM and the PAS and the likes then moved and decided to work with Kenya Kwanza, they became bona fide members of Kenya Kwanza. And so for me, I think Wetangula did not just wake up and decided because he is the speaker.
Yet there were requirements within the coalitions on even timelines on when you can leave the coalition.
Well, it is true.
Some of them stipulated 3 months. It was earlier.
Those are party constitutions.
Yes.
For example, Azimio said that it takes 90 days for you to be able to move. But then those party coalitions were never signed. Some of them were not as critically put down as possible. And so I don't think, Wetangula is a lawyer. I don't think him sitting as a lawyer could make rulings that are jeopardized.
He may have just been simply biased.
No. Let me prosecute what I'm saying. So because of that, it has been taken to a 3-man judge bench for them to make a ruling. And that's the reason why we've got hierarchies of our courts. So that if one court makes a decision, the other one makes another decision, and it goes on like that to a 5-man bench. That basically means that even the decision that you make today, even the decision that has made the people to write today that Wetangula is biased, could still be prosecuted by others. And so I do not contend with what has been found now by a 3-man bench to say that Wetangula was wrong. Because another court can still come and say, even the 3-man bench of the lawyers are also wrong. And so for us, let's look and specifically deal with the facts. Wetangula could be biased based on the 3-man bench. Another 5-man bench could say Wetangula was right. So the thing that guides us in this country is the constitution and the laws that we put.
And so far we have a court pronouncement. Unless it is overturned, it stands.
Yes, it is. And the reason why we believed in Wetangula for these 2.5 years. Now we can believe in this court ruling for probably some few days before another court ruling comes and say Wetangula was right.
If the world was to end today, we would never get any other ruling.
But the world is ending today.
I don't know why there is argument over this. It is very clear. You see, you don't jump out of coalition just by moving yourself. There is a process. And what is that process? Any coalition must be registered by a political party's registrar. All right? So, the so-called Maendeleo Chap-Chap, what other party? Those parties which
UDM,
switched to
Kenya Kwanza.
To Kenya Kwanza. Did they go through the process of registering themselves to that coalition? If they never registered themselves to that coalition, then they are still members of Azimio because they have not legally moved. I don't know why we are arguing about it and why we are saying the judges were wrong. If they never proved to court that we moved to, because I don't believe even up to today whether they have registered themselves as members of Kenya Kwanza. They are just there. Yeah, mark timing, and I would use a Sheng word, enjoying Ruto. Because if you really want to be part of me, why are you not joining me? They are there because they have some positions in government. But legally, they are not the members of Kenya Kwanza because they have not registered themselves to that coalition. If they have, then that is something else. If they haven't and they have not done, even if a Supreme Court comes today, I don't need to be a lawyer or to be a judge to understand the law dictates that for me to be a member of this coalition, we must be registered, this coalition or my party must be registered by a political party registrar. Okay. So that is the basis of this whole thing. And that is where now my good friend Wetangula comes in. By that time, we are making this pronouncement. Jubilee, Kenya Kwanza had how many numbers? And Azimio had how many numbers? And it's just a question of who has more numbers. It's not the question who has joined who yesterday. Because you pronouncing have joined does not make you legal. Today I can pronounce myself as the president of Kenya. Have I been elected? No, I have to go through the election process. So if they never went through that process, then it is wrong to say the judge or the court erred. Where we look at the biasness of Wetangula. We know that Wetangula is not supposed to hold any party position because he has to be neutral. All right? So, is it only Wetangula? The answer is no. Our constitution dictates very well that if you are to become a member, you don't vouch yourself or you don't engage yourself in politics. So how many politicians, how many party leaders do we have in the cabinet? We have Mutua, who is the leader of Mandela. Did he resign or anything? Because I had even business people. I'm a business person. And if I have interest in my company and I'm appointed minister, I resign from that company, right? So that I focus on...
Wetangula's case is even different because he is a co-principal in the Kenya Kwanza coalition, but he's a president of the second arm of government.
It's not only Wetangula. That's why we are saying the whole thing is a mess. Not only Wetangula, there are many. If we are to take a toothpick and pick each and everyone is there.
Bonagakuya, do you think that Moses Wetangula should be made to choose between those two? Either remain party leader of Ford Kenya or pick the position of speaker?
Well, let me make a clarity that the registrar of political parties should set this particular matter of political issues in the National Assembly once and for all, because the exits are very well stipulated. If those members who are purported to have switched from Azimio to Kenya Kwanza never did it officially and notified the party registrar, then it is illegal. And to date, if that seems the position, then Azimio has a right and the National Assembly has a right to implement the judgment that was, the verdict that was made by the three judgments. But if the registrar clears that, in fact, during the three months stipulated period to exit were well utilized, and those parties did the necessary, then that's only when we can say the judgment is due, but it was long-timed. And this is a place where we can say that the reason why we have the petition for president has 14 days, and that's 14 days are very clear in the Constitution, that should not go beyond that. Even these particular issues of petitions like this, of this coalition, should have a timeline, so that after that timeline, then you can take that particular decision as a long time. In matter to do with the Speaker of the National Assembly, it is true, he should be impartial. And you cannot be impartial when you are holding other positions other than the positions you are holding in the National Assembly. And therefore, he should choose either to be a party leader or to be a Speaker of the National Assembly. Number two, I have been watching the Speaker during the entourage of Western with the President at the rooftops as a normal politician. That is, to me, was a big shock, because Speaker should not be seen parting with the President. It's like he's a property of the government, because he should be impartial at the floor of the House. And therefore, that's why we need like the former Speaker of the National Assembly, who was somebody from Western. It was
Kenneth Marende.
Marende. Of course, we need a Speaker of that magnitude who can be able to define his role. And that law is to make sure that that National Assembly, that House, is neutral. And we were taking sides. And he has also missed it during the purge of Gachagua. He made some commentaries that are not healthy from his mouth because of the holder of the position he holds.
So you do agree with the headline that
I do agree.
He is biased.
That he is biased.
Okay.
And he should take a choice, either to be a party leader or to hold the position he's holding current.
Okay. Wanalote, you must agree. It is time the Speaker chose one direction, either as party leader or Speaker of the National Assembly.
That is without no doubt, because the Constitution is clear. When you are elected Speaker, you're supposed to be very neutral. Actually, you're not supposed to be to sing to any tune whatsoever. And so the fact that the Speaker still holds a position in Fort Kenya, that is what I'll say is not probably going on well. But the fact that he can be able to speak on behalf of government in political parties, I don't think this will be very, very...
the Speaker of the National Assembly speaking for the...
when he's out there, he's not the Speaker of the National Assembly. He's the Speaker of the National Assembly when he sits in Parliament. When he sits in Parliament...
Are you saying that he exits his position as Speaker?
No, he doesn't exit his position as Speaker. What I'm saying is that when he's out there, just like when you're here, you do not speak entirely of TV47 when you're out there. You're also a person. First of all, you're a person before you are a position. So when he's out there, he can be a person and he has his opinion.
Would you say the same if CJ Kome would accompany the president on a campaign?
Well, we've seen every leader in this country, including the president of the High Court.
So you want to tell us that in fact even
just give me time. The Chief Justice have also been found to pronounce other things that at times we say, no, those are personal opinion. And the reason is, sometimes even when people speak, they say, and even when Paul wrote in the Bible, he say, this is not my opinion, but the Lord's. Another one, he'll say, this is my opinion, not the Lord. And so we cannot say, because you're the Speaker, you cannot even cough out of the speakership position. There are times when you become an individual, and the time when you become an individual, you're allowed to speak as an individual.
Then what happens to the separation of powers if at all the person of the Speaker, once he leaves Parliament, he becomes beholden to the president? Then how do we manage this separation of powers, Bwana Mutambo?
The separation of power in Kenya is in books. Separation of power in Kenya is in books.
Not in reality.
That is not constitution is just a paper.
Right? If we, that's what I'm saying, we don't follow that book. That book is not followed in Kenya. It is only followed for inconvenience. When it is convenient to me, then I follow it. When it is not convenient to me, I will not follow it. And that is how this Kenya is ruled and governed. Right. We need to understand that. But the moment we'll go back to the letter of the book, this country will be straight like this.
Okay.
That's why you see, my speaker, my good friend Wetangula, his loyalty is not in parliament, the people who elected him to that position. His loyalty is to the leader of the government because he controls majority of members in the parliament. And it is very easy for him to say, remove that man, and he will be removed tomorrow. Actually, if today president wakes up and say, I don't want to see Speaker, Wetangula in that office tomorrow, trust you me, he will not be there. As opposed to when there is separation of power, the members of parliament, they have their loyalty to their speaker. But the members of parliament, they don't have their loyalty to the speaker. Their loyalty is to their party leaders. So what does that tell you? Is there any separation of power? What power does Wetangula hold today? Apart from saying order, order, and sometimes people like Agwe will not listen to him. They will still shout. So that what tells us that we have a problem in our country of management of our affairs.
All right.
Yes.
These are the big headlines, and of course, we wait to see how this will manifest once the National Assembly reconvenes this afternoon, following that 2 months break, and with this puzzle over who or which party, which side of the House will now occupy the majority side. We'll have to wait for that. Now, let me draw your attention to a story on the front page of the Daily Nation. It's not the main headline, but it has made a lot of discussions. The story is actually on page 10. It talks about voting blocks to watch in 2027. And this is an analysis of population projections over the next 20 years, which shows a surge in Northeastern, even as President William Ruto abolished strict vetting to ease issuance of national IDs. Now, talking about these different regions and many groupings and leaders already planning ahead, depending on the regional blocks, the other discussion always oscillates between Mount Kenya and now Northeastern Province. We do have a story filed by one of our reporters on Gachagua and Ruto, the Murima face-off. Let's watch that story and draw parallels with this bigger debate about the voting blocks come 2027.
A group of President William Ruto's allies from the Mount Kenya region found themselves at the center of a tense confrontation on Monday, as residents of Laikipia expressed strong opposition to the Kenya Kwanza administration. Laikipia North Member of Parliament Sarah Korere and her Laikipia East counterpart Mwangi Kionjore faced a storm of heckling during a funeral service for the late Mzee William Derito Nkatia, father of Laikipia Senator John Kenywa in Kiamariga Village, Salamawan.
Nashukuru Mungu kwa sababu sikuzama na serikali yenu yenye mulitengeneza wenyewe na kubaliana na Kionjori, tutakaa ndani ya hiyo serikali.
Korere, in her attempt to defend her decision to back the Kenya Kwanza government, was met with a barrage of jeers from mourners even before she could fully speak. Her efforts to criticize local leaders speaking in the local dialect only fueled the tension further.
Hapa ni Kiamariga, hapa ni Laikipia, hapa sio Nyeri. Sisi wote hatujui Kikuyu. Pembeni huko.
Kinjuri too had a tough time defending his support for Kenya Kwanza government, emphasizing that he stood by its mandate to deliver on pre-election promises. His comments were met with a less than welcoming reception from the crowd.
Ni lazima tupate maji, tupate stima, tupate barabara, watu wetu waache kupigwa na wakora, hiyo yote ni lazima.
Bishop, on behalf of the political class, please accept our apology as political leaders for the disrespect that has been shown to you and the Reverend Fathers and the altar by that member of parliament who is an ally of President William Ruto.
Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has warned President William Ruto to curb his use of foul language when addressing Kenyans, suggesting it could lead to a public disdain for both him and the government.
I appreciate that you have messed the economy and you are stuck, but that does not allow you to demean that office by abusing the people of Kenya who elected you.
Gachagua accused Ruto of undermining the presidency by engaging in divisive rhetoric, a sentiment he believes is echoed by leaders close to the president.
Let us stop the culture of lies. Number one. Number two, maaskofu pia wamesema ni makosa kushika vijana, abductions.
Hii maneno ya abductions and killings of our children at such a time as this, it is wrong before men, it is wrong before God.
Your Excellency, it cannot be that the only thing that you care about is your re-election in 2027. That you are ready to expose Kenya even to danger from Al-Shabaab and other people. And you have nothing against the members of the Somali community.
You are profiling communities. The people of Mount Kenya region, you call them tribalists. The people of Kambani, you demean them, call them Dego farmers. The people of Isiolo, you call them drug peddlers. Mr. President, be careful, because I have listened to the ground and I want to advise you today, stop abusing the people of Kenya.
During the ceremony, the Nyahururu Catholic bishop who presided over the service urged political leaders to be truthful and champion the interests of the people without bias or favorism, calling for unity and integrity in their leadership. Mike Kagwango, TV 47.
So that story by my colleague Mike Kagwango just paints generally a picture of the political landscape currently in Kenya. That's where the temperatures have gotten to. But underlying this is the issue of regionalism and the numbers that are there. Last week we saw President William Ruto tour the East Africa, the northeastern region, and we saw the kind of discussions that were there. It was purely about numbers. Senior government officials, including top CSs, talking about how big the numbers are in northeastern. It is a story here. Voting blocks to watch in 2027 and just how big the numbers are. So they say an analysis of population projection over the next 20 years shows a surge in northeastern, even as President William Ruto abolished strict vetting to ease issuance of national identification cards to the region's residents. It would appear everyone is busy trying to block different regions and using calculators to say, these are my numbers, this is how we will go come 2027. Do you agree that, yes, it is a game of numbers, Bwana Mutambo, that everyone is right to actually plan this way, however much the risks involved are?
Going by the headline, voting blocks to watch, I will be very, very careful when it comes to numbers. Because taking a simple paper and a pen, and you go down to the numbers, and you ask yourself, how many votes did the current regime get from this region? You will get your answer. From Mount Kenya alone, the current regime got almost 4 million votes. All right? Go back to the block where the president comes from, Rift Valley. He got 1.8. And don't forget, in that Rift Valley, the name Maina Joroge, they are almost 40 to 50%. What does that tell you? The entire Rift Valley, those who speak the language of the president, they gave him not more than 1 million votes with all this noise you hear. All right? So I would be very much worried if I cannot penetrate to the 4 million number. Come back again. And this is where this coalition of Kalonzo, Murima man, and the rest feels comfortable. It is because they know very well. And this, I don't know whether the advisors of the president are telling him this. If today Gachagua and Uhuru put their hands together, all right, that block will be intact. And we are talking of 4 to 5 million. If Kalonzo joins that team faithfully, without having issues that I have to be the one, this has to be the one, Kalonzo will bring in almost 2 million votes. If Matiang'i jumps in to that wagon, he will bring another one or so.
Isn't that the same thing we're talking about?
That's what I'm telling you. In total, we are saying, as they are told, on your marks, set, go. The Kalonzo coalition, they have 80 million.
Yet we hear now Northeastern claiming that, yes, their voter numbers could be as high as 5.5 million come 2027. Yet previously, there were not more than 2 million. This is a kind of calculation happening right now. Do you agree that probably there's an over-focus on the numbers and it's basic mathematics?
In the morning, politics is perception. And even those who are bringing this kind of data, they just want to bring what we call a perception that Northeastern can make a difference. But I can tell you very correctly that if there is one thing that can hinder Northeastern to their game, is that one, they are pastoralists. And pastoralists, most of the times, they have to look for greener pastures of their cattle and so on. And therefore, the dependents of voters are those who are in towns. And the numbers may not appear to the numbers in the data. And that's where the mathematics can come along, you can get it wrong. Because there is no way you can convince me you'll be able to whip all the pastoralists from wherever farthest they are to come to a polling station in that particular voting day, unless you do a very serious mobilizing job. Number two is that we are aware that there is a trend now that the president has come very clear on this particular element of vetting, that now they can freely cross to Kenya from Somalia, register as Kenyan citizen, have ID without restrictions of vetting. That's a very wrong trend, very wrong one. And if we are doing that particular business because of voting element, then we are doing it wrong and a long time. Because one...
Do you agree that that has a potential of actually boosting numbers, possible
But I can tell you, even though you bring the whole Mogadishu to Kenya, you can't change the figures. There is no much, because it does not mean that, in fact, whenever we get 400,000 votes out of registered 1 million, the reason is because they have no votes. They have votes, but they don't appear to the polling station during that particular D-Day because they are elsewhere. But if there can be a magic of migrating them, bringing them there, in that particular D-Day, they can do magic. But there is no possibility of that. And therefore, I would say, those who are focusing on that route may not get anything variable. You may do a lot of work to migrate people from their native areas of Somalia to Kenya, just because of vote, but that may not change the figures. One, I have just told you, their business is pastoralism. And this sometimes ruins them. Even to get an MCA, he has to do a very serious thorough job to migrate them from forest, migrate them with the vehicles to the centers, then camp them somewhere for 3 days or 4. Give them food until the day. But if you think that they will come from wherever they are to vote, it's a very, very magical thing. And but I would tell you, if you want to steer an election through figures, then you may use Northeastern. Use the figures to steer an election, but not the actual vote casted.
Okay.
Yes.
There are those who read a lot of mischief in some of the actions of the president, Wanalote, and opening up the issuance of IDs in that region. Do you think that it is anything to worry about?
Well, first of all, I want to say that these figures are not factual. The figures we see in our census were not factual. I come from Kashiliba constituency, I come from West Pokot County. The figures of West Pokot County, and this is just an example of what has happened to the countries that are called the pastoralists. And I'll want to, with a lot of due respect, ask my colleague not to trivialize the pastoralism or the pastoral life that we live in. We are people that move from one point to another on seeking for us livelihoods. And so we move from one point to another one, but that does not make us not Kenyans. We are Kenyans like any other person, and we enjoy the equal rights we're supposed to enjoy, not we enjoy. We're supposed to enjoy the equal rights that everybody else is. If you look at the census of 1999, 2009, and 2019, you will note that in West Pokot, the population has been decreasing from 800, it came to 700. And then now in the data here, I'm seeing West Pokot is in 600. I live there. I have not seen mass extermination of people. I have not seen people not giving birth. I have actually seen that the fertility rate in West Pokot, like any other pastoralist count communities, is at 7.78. But then when it comes to the real data, you find that the population has reduced. So for me, I'll say, one, the way the data was carried out, the census of 2019, is a vast. And the reason why I saw one member of parliament from the Northeastern went to court and actually complained. He wanted to know why the population of the Northeastern is decreasing from one census to another one. And so for me, I'll say, it is not true that we are dealing with data that is real. This data is not real. And I think for us to be able to talk about figures that will make a magnitude to elections of 2027, we need to get real data. And this real data needs to be done in areas that were subjected to injustice.
At least the four counties, for example, the four counties of Northeastern are set for a repeat census.
Yeah, we need to have a repeat census. I will also call for a repeat census for West Pokot. We cannot come from 800,000 to 600,000 in 20 years. In fact, we're supposed to be doubling that figure. I read what Mutahi Ngunya said, and I'll say, the election of 2027 will be determined by the Somali Mulembe nation, and I have nothing against the Kikuyu privileges, but the party is over. That's what he said. Why? If you look at the trends, the fertility rate in these areas have actually increased. Every Somali, including the ones that are living in Nairobi, have 3 wives, 5 or 4 wives, 10 children, 15 children. But the more developed counties, now the fertility rate is at 3.1. In 10 years, a population of 1 million at 7.1 fertility rate will actually double to, it will go to 7 million. A population of 2 million.
The concern is how these numbers will be come to 2027.
I'm actually trying to look at the trends, because the fertility rate is what determines what the population will be in future. And what Mutahi Ngunya is saying is correct. He says that the voting blocks, the voting pattern, are actually moving to areas that we never expected. And so it makes a lot of impact. Even when we use this data that is written here, which is not correct, you will actually see that the trends are actually shifting. So that counties like Kiambu, counties like Kirinyaga, counties like Nyeri are now being overtaken by counties like Mandera.
If you're saying the data is not correct, how sure are you that...
No, I'm just trying to look at this wrong data already, which needs to be corrected. Okay. Already, you can actually see that there is toppling. The shifting is there. But what we cannot contend in this data is that the population fertility rate is very high in those pastoralist areas and not as high as such in those other stable countries. And so it makes a lot of impact to say that the people that are in the northeastern region, the people that are in the northern region where I come from, are also Kenyans, and they're supposed to be given the equal rights to vote. What we've actually witnessed before is that even the registration of members, in my constituency, I've got people who are over 70 years, but they can never be given IDs because they are suspected not to be Kenyans on the basis that they're pastoralists. So that when they move looking for pasture in Uganda, they are called Ugandans. The same thing happens. And so it will be wrong for members of parliament, my colleague here, to say that even if we move the whole Mogadishus, we need to respect the Somalis that are living in Kenya. We need to respect the people of northeastern regions living in Kenya.
Is there a risk that, that native Somalis, those people who, Somali nationals, could infiltrate and determine the
well, the risk is there. I am not saying the risk is not there. But we've got systems in this country that will protect us against infiltration of people from the Somali country to become Kenyans. But we cannot use that then to trivialize and talk negatively about the people of Northeastern region that have not been given the national identity card and the fact that they are still Kenyans and they're legally Kenyans.
Yes, Bwana Mutambo.
No, I get a bit confused when I hear that this data is wrong, this was this, that was that. Then we are saying we are nomad people, we are pastoralists who move from one point to another. And there's no argument brought forward that during the census, maybe that person who was supposed to be counted at their own home ground, they were not there because their life is to move. So they moved to another. What I would concentrate on is the number of Kenyan population changing. Okay? Because if you are not counted in Marsabit, maybe by then you had moved to Tana River and you went and increased the number of Tana River. So it is wrong to criticize the work of professionals because we want it to be the way we want. And we are not asking ourselves, why? I was counted in Nairobi. I never had a number in Kitui. My number is in Nairobi because that is where I was during the census. Am I complaining that the number of Kitui is reducing? Then number two, there's some narrative I want to remove from Kenyans. They are saying that Somalis, they have 3, 4, 5 wives, and they are giving birth every day. Let me tell you, if you ask Mheshimiwa Kakuya how many children he has outside the family, you will be shocked. And you will know them the day he will die.
Kakuya is a very serious allegation.
No, that's the truth.
But I still have them.
That's the truth. The only difference between us, and allow me to say us, the Christian, and Muslims, is because Muslims, they put it right. They show you that I have 2 or 3. They don't hide. We, Mheshimiwa, I don't want to put you into problems with your family.
No, you put me.
But I can bet you have 1 or 2 somewhere. Okay? And all these
don't bet.
It's only that we don't. Let me say that we don't show it out. We hide. That's why I commend the Muslims because they are open to their lives. We are not, and that does not mean we are not giving birth. People are giving. Those who are not Muslims, they are giving. Those who are not Somalis, they are giving birth on a daily basis. I can tell you, you'll find a Kamse in Ukambani, he has a wife here and another 2, 3 children somewhere else. And that keeps on multiplying. So we cannot say it is only one community which is giving high rate of birth. It is every man, even you, but I don't know about you, but I know it's happening. It's only that when you are touched, you jump 10 feet. No, I don't do that. But the truth of the matter is, the day you'll die, we'll find out how many children you had out there, because they will come calling and saying, this is my father.
Okay. My concern is how these numbers are being used. It's only 2.5 years to election day. Is it possible for the numbers to change so significantly? Numbers that were previously not thought to be that high. In 2022, they were so different. In 5 years' time, the numbers move from 2 million to 5 million? Bwana Kakuya?
In fact, Demore, in little census official assessment report, there is no magic. There is no such magic. There cannot be a multiplication of a community which had 2 million voters in the last election, and within 2.5 years, they will double that number to 5 million. If they would double that number to such a number, the other communities are also bathing. So they should also have numbers. And I can tell you for sure, assume today, do a small arithmetic that probably will give you an answer. Assume every familyhood of a Kikuyu community will birth 2 children. When Somali communities are birthing 5. Go to their number. If their number was 1 million, then this number was 10 million. 10 million, if you put that number of two child, there is no any significant imagination that that number can multiply to conquer that particular number, unless 50 years to come, not tomorrow.
Right. But Alote, coming from a region where you say you suffer the same kind of situation with the northeastern Kenya.
But remember, Edimule told you something. This is a gimmick and is purely for a particular purpose. And here the highlights are to use a particular window and most likely rigging of an next election using these kind of hyped numbers.
Okay.
Then you guys, there's a perception that, yes, this community have multiplicated to this level. And therefore there will be no doubt, even though results will come.
And even if it works that way, then these numbers, if at all they're just ballooned, they cannot just work for the presidency alone, for the presidential election. Even local elections or for the county bosses and MPs will be affected by the numbers. That is the risk I'm talking about. As a representative who comes from a county that suffers from the same kind of situation, do you think that there's a risk for local politicians, and by local I'm saying county level politicians, if at all numbers are ballooned for the presidential election?
Well, I don't think numbers were ballooned for the presidential elections. They actually affect across board from the MC all the way to the president. What I would want to allege, first of all, is that we will need to do a fresh census so that we get the right figures. It will be incorrect for us to say that pastoralists are actually not counted when they are doing census, because we do mobilize our populations to be counted. What I need us to reflect is we can go back to the elections of 2017, where Raila had lost to Mwai Kibaki based on a vote coming from Tharaka Nithi, where Tharaka Nithi, the voters voted, the people that voted were more than the population that are in Tharaka Nithi. I'm actually looking at the numbers of Tharaka Nithi today. They are only 416,000 only. But then the ingenuity, or what was happening then, was that we saw voters, the people that voted were more than the people that were in Tharaka Nithi. And so that basically tells you that elections manipulates numbers. And the reason why we are we are very worried about the numbers that we are seeing today. What I'll actually tell Gachagua, and also the question that you asked, I'm looking at Garissa, for example, in this data, and Nyeri. Garissa is 927,000 people as per now. Nyeri is around 835,000. Those are two counties. One is from the northeastern, one is from the central Kenya. Let's assume they are all a million. Let's assume they are all a million because they are close numbers to each other. At 7.7%, Garissa will be adding a population of around 70,000 people per year. For 5 years, they will be having around 350,000 additional. On the other side, Nyeri will be adding a 3.1% population increase. That will be around 50,000 per year. So that gives to 150. So in 5 years, Garissa, one county, will have 200,000 more voters than Nyeri, for example. And so it is possible that with the high fertility rate of the people that are coming from those countries, those counties.
But you do agree that these numbers should reflect all the way from the MCA level?
They are going to reflect, of course, they're going to reflect from the MCA level all the way to the president. If it does reflect to the president alone, then we will read a lot of sinister. But if it does reflect to every elected position, then we will say it's okay. The other thing to ask, to respond to Matambo, he actually said that that probably us Christians, I think it will be wrong for us to falsify Christians that they are hiding. They are very strict Christians. There are very few people that probably are doing that. And again, when we look at the population increase, we're not looking at a father, how many children a father is giving birth to. We're looking at the entire population. What is the increase? So whether you have 10 or 20 that you've eaten out there, when we look at the absolute number of that region, we will count your 10 hidden children among the 3.1%.
Even the hidden children are counted in the census. Yes.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I have 4 wives like the Muslims, or I have 1 wife and then I have many children hiding. Right. The entire population tells me as to whether that region is increasing exponentially or is increasing. So for me, I will say that it is a fact that the pastoralist communities, mine included, are exponentially increasing in numbers because we are not afraid of the economy. You guys are now wanting very good life. You guys want to drive very good cars with one kid, darling, sweetheart. We do not want that. We want our population to increase, and I think it is working on our advantage. 2045, I'm looking at 2045.
Your numbers will
we
be high.
will make the decision in this country.
All the best, Bonalute.
What matters?
Final word on this, yes.
What matters, because he says it doesn't matter. What matters is the narrative that it is only this particular who are giving birth. And once that narrative is put to people's mind, it is very easy to manipulate the outcome of election because they will be told, we told you we are giving birth. So that's why we have so many now to justify illegality.
It is the extent of rigging
that's what matters.
It is the extent of rigging that will be required because all those numbers have to show from the bottom level all the way up to the presidency.
No. Let me tell you, that's how it's supposed to be. But the question is, do we go that route? How many elections have we ever had? And he has just given an example of the Rakanidi. What happened with that election? The figures which came from the Rakanidi, they did not even tally with the registered voters. And number two, my point is, you may have a higher population, but have you mobilized to register as voters? You may have 5 million people, but how many have registered? So we cannot go by the population. I would argue with the registered numbers of voters when it comes to election.
All right.
That's how I will argue it. So the issue here, Mheshimiwa, is the narrative which is being sold out to the people. That is only this particular group which are giving birth. I want to tell you, we also have single mothers who have 2 or 3 children. You don't know who are the donors of those.
It will be those Somalis as well.
All right.
You don't know who are the donors of those children.
Gentlemen,
so
I want us
you cannot say it's only one tribe giving birth in Kenya.
All right.
Kenyans are giving birth. Kenyans.
I want
let
us
us remove the tribes.
And the headline reads, voting blocks to watch in 2027. That's on the front page of the Daily Nation. The story is on page 10. And it breaks down the numbers per region and how they are set to change in the next 20 years or so, which could also affect 2027. Yes, so the politics of numbers definitely continues. The other thing that should count is something that's supposed to happen this week that could just as well determine the outcome of the 2027 elections or the politics of Kenya going forward, and that's the AUC elections, which are coming up on Saturday, 4 days away from today. So it's a big countdown. And the cartoon on the People Daily has a caricature of the president as a hen that is lying on an orange, meaning that President William Ruto is definitely counting on ODM and ODM support come 2027. The events of this weekend could just as well change this. The AUC elections, whichever way it goes, could prove to William Ruto, if at all he can actually count on Raila Odinga and ODM to support his 2027 game plan. That's according to the cartoon. Do you agree with that assessment, Bwana Gakuya, that this is a very crucial week, not just for Raila Odinga, but for President William Ruto as well?
Allow me first to make a correction for my panelist member on the Rakanidhi's result during Kibaki's time. That by then, the Rakanidhi wasn't a county, and it was a single constituency. And therefore, whatever number was counted, actually it was resembling the number of population there then. And coming to the results of AU, what I can tell you is that, one, Raila is a very brilliant, very bold member, and he has sustained losses of various number of elections without any shock. And even this one, whether he will get it or lose it, Raila will still be firm and strong. The only problem here that we realize is William Ruto's political arithmetics. This will change. Because here the dream is Raila catch the fish, and therefore he will be comfortable and therefore not in the ballot come 2027. But it will be very tricky, and you have been listening from the party followers, from Simba Arati, who was very categorical. ODM will go its own, Orengo, and including the SG. And finally, the current chair, who is, I think he's a temporary chair, Anyang'
the party leader,
who was very categorical that party should respect the messages given out by the Secretary General. And is a man of high magnitude should be respected. This is indicating something, that in case Raila loses the battle of AU, you will find the party in the ballot come 2027. And I can tell you, 80% is that the party will be at the ballot, presidential ballot. And that's a suicidal to William Ruto, because this is the only safety net that actually is hanging on. Whether he can hang on Northeastern without Raila, he's done. Therefore, I wish that in fact he can be able to play magic and make sure that Raila does not lose this one.
Yes.
Because this will bring a different dynamic in Kenyan politics when Raila is back here. Yes. Because Raila is not a pushover. And there's no way you address him, issue to do with age. That is not a factor. Yes. He can retire in politics if he's secure in AU, but not when otherwise.
All right. Bonalote, don't you think that politically it has been too risky for the president to bag on this one situation for his 2027 game plan? That do you agree with that assessment to begin with, that Raila Odinga is the biggest determining factor in William Ruto's possible re-election?
Well, Raila Odinga is an ally of William Ruto now. Raila Odinga has been an ally of Mwai Kibaki. He became an ally of Moi. He was also an ally of Uhuru Kenyatta. So for me, I will not say that this is a proper assessment. This is a biased media assessment about William Ruto. And I think the media has been bashing the president all over on everything. I think the support that William Ruto has given to Raila Odinga is not about politics. It's about patriotism and the love of the country. We saw Uhuru Kenyatta supporting the former Amina Mohammed for the same post earlier on. It wasn't because Uhuru Kenyatta was competing or was afraid of Amina. He was actually fighting patriotism. He wanted Kenyans to be in the seat. And I think every Kenyan of goodwill should actually pray that Raila gets the seat, not because of politics, because he has the capacity to be able to transform. We've seen him during being the chair of infrastructure, and we've seen what has been able to happen in Africa. So for me, I would say this is biased because the president is doing what any president will want to do. Every country is supporting his candidate. It will be wrong. I'm sure the opposition will be very happy to see that William Ruto is not supporting Raila Odinga. They will actually say, you see, he's hating him. He doesn't want to support him because he was in the opposition. But the fact that he's now doing the right thing, they now have to look for
do you think
they are now
William
looking
Ruto's
for
re-election will be negatively affected if at all he doesn't have the support?
It will not be affected because the fact that Raila Odinga becomes the chair of AU or not does not bar Raila from running. So nobody should say that because now Raila is going to be the chair of AU, he is not going to run. That is wrong. It's actually a biased assessment. Raila Odinga still has the opportunity to run if he does wish to run, and he does have the opportunity of not running whether he's elected or not. When you see what Raila said yesterday in a meeting, he said it is a win-win for us. We get it, it's a win. We don't get it, it's a win. In any case, amesema si bado tuko nyumbani. That's what he said. So for us, it's for us to politically look at it and say, oh, William Ruto is supporting Raila Odinga because of elections is wrong. What we know is that every president of every country supports its candidate. And so that will be the right thing to say, because that is world over. Every president supports its candidate. And William Ruto is supporting Raila Odinga because Raila Odinga is a Kenyan and is qualified to take over this position, not because of politics. Why are we always trying to put a negative intonation on everything? I think the media needs also to wake up and say, let us be patriotic enough. Because even those people out there, when they're reading this, they will actually look at a country that is so myopic in thinking. What we need to see is that the president is all out, just like what the former president did for Amina. And in fact, when the former president did this, William Ruto himself took upon himself to visit every country for Amina. Was William Ruto afraid of Amina then? He actually took, and we call him Jet, I don't know, we gave him a name of a Jet something, because he was going from one country to another.
But this is Raila Odinga we're talking about.
Of course, Raila Odinga, because now people want to look at it differently. What I'm saying is the fact remains, the best fact is that every country supports its candidates.
Okay.
And that
are we wrong to look at it that way, that Raila Odinga's win or loss in this AUC elections would mean a lot for our local politics?
When I hear Mheshimiwa analyzing this issue on that direction is taking, I'm questioning myself, what is his profession? Is he a politician, or is he a pastor, a bishop?
Yes, a pastor, bishop, probably.
Because there's no politician who will think like him. And like you have rightly put it, we are talking about a maestro called Raila Amolo Odinga. Okay? When you say that Ruto did not look at politics when he went for Raila, then I question your political career. Because mention Raila anywhere, you talk of politics. Mention Bishop Mueria, you are talking of Christianity. Mention, I don't know, Sheikh who, you are talking of Muslims. Mention Ronaldo, you are talking of football. Mention Raila, you are talking politics in Kenya. You are not talking of any other thing. And for anybody to have Raila on his side, it is for political reason. And history has it. Who has never had Raila in their government, apart from President Mzee Kenyatta? Who? All of them. And what happens after they join hands? At the end of the term, what happens to Raila? He runs. He goes out. He comes out from that coalition. He runs. He loses. He joins the next one. All right? What is that? That is politics. And Raila is politics in Kenya, is the father of politics today, if we can call him so. So Ruto was looking at the support for Raila. He was not looking at anything else. If he was not looking at the support of Raila, he could have maintained his position that huyu ni Muganga. But because he wanted that support, he had to withdraw Muganga and call him Muse. Yes, and call him... where was that patriotism when you were campaigning? When you are campaigning, do you throw away your patriotism and you start calling people names? No. Let me tell you. How many Kenyans do we have who are qualified for that position? And how many? I'm asking a question. How many? And who came up with the Raila name? Who came up with the Raila name? Who came up and said we are going to support this man? It is Ruto. So let us give Raila his credit. He was picked by Ruto because Ruto really wants his support, and that's why he even took some of his people to give them positions in government.
All right.
All right. Let me correct that. So Raila is not appointed by Ruto to run for this seat. Raila went for the seat, so Ruto only picked up to support Raila.
Why him? Why not you? Why not every
who else declared? Tell us.
Every Kenya is supporting Raila for this position.
All right.
Me included.
Okay? Tell us who else declared interest like Raila.
We are not. You know, the point here is why was Raila? Why is Ruto supporting Raila? Because and it is simply for political reason. And that's the answer.
What is your assessment? If Raila Odinga loses this election,
yes,
what happens?
You see, whether Raila wins or loses, my good friend, Ruto, has a problem with Kenyans, not with the leaders. There may be leaders who we are praising him, but I can tell you there is a problem, and Mheshimiwa knows it. Go to the ground. If I go today to Mwingi or I go to Kitui County, I'm wondering where will I begin to start selling Ruto? To who? That's a question, and that transverses the entire country.
No.
It's good you've mentioned that, because it brings us to the headline on the front page of the Daily Nation, and we have just about 6 minutes or so. So we will talk about this as you make your final comments. The president has been accused of using unpalatable words towards Kenyans, and even the forum yesterday, a funeral in Laikipia, the deputy president used the former deputy president used the opportunity to ask the president to tone down on that kind of rhetoric. It was also the subject of the headline on the Standard yesterday, where they said, the headline read, "Unpresidential Ruto," because of the kind of words he's using. Now we're seeing, because of the heckling the president received in Isiolo, we are seeing that up to 50 young people in Isiolo were arrested in a police crackdown in Isiolo town on Saturday, hours after President Ruto's meeting was marred by heckling, and they were arraigned amid protests by relatives and human rights activists who accuse the government of intimidation and harassment. Bwana Gakuya, the president appears to be getting edgy, that he is probably getting frustrated. Do you agree with that? Is it because you've interacted with him? Is that the kind of personality he has?
Idemore, let me say, once the head of state takes oath of office, I keep repeating that he sworn in to protect 3 areas. One is the Constitution, where at this panel today, like we have decided, we have walked out of the same Constitution to jungle. Because what we have listened here is that it's as is normal that we don't have to follow the stipulated mandates given by the Constitution, but we have to break it and use our own other means. The president has a law to protect the Constitution, the people, and their properties. One, the element which has been so dawning that Kenyans have been losing their life through ex-judicial killings. When we have a head of state, and when the country is not a revolution country, that is too bad for the country, because he took oath to protect the people, their lives and their property. They should not be disappearing without a clear explanation. Number 2, issue of abductions. Kenyans should not be taking that route when they have elected a government of the people, unless that government is a revolution to government. And in this case, there is no single element should be, the head of state should be seen building anger out of desperation of a kind. This, he should hold his horses. And he's not the one who should utter through his mouth the kind of words that sometimes he utter. Because once you blame a community as a tribal community, once you blame another one as dengue farmers, once you bring others as drug dealers, I don't think those are good words coming from a head of state. Right. And I think what the head of state should, I am sure that in fact he might be having what you call burning issues and anger. But that anger should not go that extent, because he's the father to the nation. He's the one to tone down those other voices. But if he's at the top, then he's giving a room to those other supporters to go his way. And I think that's not a good direction as a country. He's a father, and he's playing a father role to make sure that the country is cool and it is heading on the right direction.
All right. Bwana Lote, do you agree that the president appears to be losing his cool as you make your final comment? Briefly, a minute and a half or so.
Well, I will say it is unfortunate that youths have actually been rounded up in Isiolo. And I'm also one of the persons, a proponent, that's saying abductions in this country is done wrong, because it's wrong for you to pick somebody and not prosecute this person as per the provision of the Constitution. That being said, I will actually ask the people that are doing abductions not to do that in the manner that they're doing, because they are painting the president, who I don't think is involved in these things, in a bad light. For me, I don't think the president has lost his cool, because like I said about Wetangula, I also say that about the president. We've seen the president being the head of state, and there's a time when the president is a person. And sometimes we criticize what the president says because he's our right, he's our president, on everything that he says. And I think his life, public or not public, is also the lives of Kenyans, because it matters what he does in public, it matters what he does in private. What I'll say is that what the youth did in Isiolo was not welcomed, because the head of state demand the respect of the head of state. It doesn't matter whether you've got a political or an opinion that is contrary to that of the president. We've seen presidents in this country speaking in their mother tongue in a national function, and we've never complained. We've never complained because we believe that probably this president is ours, and so he speaks in our mother tongue, so we should be happy. But should it have been probably me speaking my mother tongue, coming from a small community, probably they will castigate me to hell. So sometimes the opinion of the leaders is biased towards who they believe is theirs. And so when he went to Isiolo, probably the youth were instigated. And again, the youth have always been misused. If you look at the Gen Z uprising in June last year here, at the end of it all, it was found that the youth were being used by people. So that when these people were satisfied, the youth then disappeared. But at the end of it all, it is the youth that are being used. So for me, I'll say it will not have been the youth that are castigated here. It will not be the youth that are actually taken in. The youth will not tell us who is this that did this to the president. Irrespective of whether the president is right or wrong, it is wrong for you to echo the head of state on the basis that is the head of state is the symbol of unity in this country. If you actually echo the symbol of unity in this country, you are disuniting the country, and the country can fragment.
Final word, Bwana Mutambu, is it right for the president to show this raw emotion publicly?
No. No. As we are saying, is the symbol of unity. It doesn't matter who heckle me, right? And I'm not saying that people should heckle the president. I would ask myself as a president, when did the rain start beating us? When did we reach that point whereby I, as a president, or my appointed ministers, go somewhere and they cannot even address the people? Why did we, what happened? What is wrong with my administration? Is it me who people don't like? Is it what I'm doing? Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, because it is not happening in one place. It is happening across the country. That is what is happening. And what my good friend, and I keep on calling him my good friend because he is my good friend.
Yes.
What he needs to do is to look at the people who are surrounding him. Are they giving him the right advice? And are they doing what is right on the ground for him? Because Mheshimiwa here is a politician. He has a constituency. And in his constituency, he has wards and locations and sub-locations. And he knows if I'm going to this certain location, I need 1, 2, 3 people to support me there so that my visit there can be successful. Who is supporting Ruto on the ground? That's the question. Because when you don't have people supporting you on the ground, even if you go there, you will have chaos. Because you don't have people to manage you on that particular place. And that's what I'm saying, that Ruto don't have people to support him. That's why you see all these things happening. Today, if Ruto goes to, let me pick Mwingi because that's where I come from, and he has no people down there, what will happen? Knowing that Kalonzo is vying for the seat.
Same thing as this year.
So you need to have people who can support him on the ground so that these things do not happen. But once you force yourself that I have police, I have I don't know what, it will happen all over. And that's what I'm saying. Ruto has a problem with the Kenyans. And he needs Kenyans who can control this. But not those who are telling him, Your Excellency, everything is right. No, we have to tell him things are not right for him to succeed.
Agony for youth after Ruto visit, and they ask whether or not this is intolerance. Arrests followed an order by President Ruto after some youth heckled him. That's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Thank you so much, Joe Mutambu, former MP Mwingi Central, Titus Lote, MP Kachaliba, and James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, our panelists this morning, as we take a look at so many headlines. And thank you, because we've really taken time to talk about quite a number of these headlines. After the break, another conversation right here on TV47, management systems for SMEs aided through digitization. My colleague Arno Dida will be having a sit down with Patrick Moraguri, CEO, Have a Go Business Systems. Do stand by for that. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. Have a lovely day.